Well, people who are running for office are often asked why they're doing it. And in general, I say people seek higher office for either the reason to serve others or for more selfish reasons, the power, the glory, the ego. We all have a little bit of that, but I think some of us are there for the best reason, which is the opportunity to serve others. And I always say there's 3 reasons why I want to be in public service. I care about the problems that exist. I think I have a contribution to make to help solve them. And what's in it for me is it would make me feel good to do such a challenging, important job well. Our population is aging, and how we take care of them in an affordable and secure way without bankrupting our children's generation is, in my opinion, the most important domestic issue of our generation. And a lot of it needs to be done at the federal level, but we're not running for Congress anymore. We're running for lieutenant governor. So states often need to take the lead on achievements we can make at the state level to help the federal government when it starts doing that journey. And there'll be a lot of aspects to it. Just one I want to mention specifically. When my mother was in the nursing home in Minneapolis, and she was in the best nursing home in the country, and she had family right there, namely my sister, my brother from Dallas would fly up there regularly. She got wonderful care. She was surrounded by people she loved. And yet, when I visited her, talking to my sister Jody, she said, "Billy, when I'm not here, she still doesn't get as good care as I am. She needs an advocate for her when I'm not here to make sure she gets her meds right, her food right." And so 10 years ago, there were hearings on the abuse that had taken place in state institutions for the disabled and mentally ill. And I spoke at that hearing. So this isn't my first day at the rodeo. And what I advocated then is that the state require all institutions of care, which would include seniors and the disabled and others, state and private, to hire at least one advocate for the residents, more than one depending on their size, paid for by the institution, but reporting not to the institution so they can't be fired if they're crabbing too much, but reporting to the state agency which oversees their care, so that all families know that even if the care is not quite as good as when they're there, they have an advocate who's the liaison between the family and the resident, or some residents have no family, who makes sure that abuse doesn't take place and that care is the best we have to offer. And the lieutenant governor can't make legislation happen by themselves. But the issues I've chosen are bipartisan. We all have parents that we need to take care of. We're all going to be elderly. What Republican or Democrat doesn't want us to find a way to take care of our elderly in a safe, affordable way? And so I hope to work with the legislators to introduce legislation to that effect. And if it is as attractive as I hope it'll be, it'll pass. And if not, my backup plan is to take a referendum to the people and put it on the ballot and get it passed that way. I don't think the legislature sometimes gets confused and represents corporate lobbyists instead of the people who elected them, but I hope that'll be different under my administration. You've asked me about my issue of getting corporate political contributions out of politics. And the idea comes from my days last summer and fall with Occupy St. Louis. I first went down out of curiosity. Then I began to like what they were standing for, even though no one could figure out exactly what they were standing for. I liked where their heart was. Their basic principle is 1% of the country with money has too much power, which means not enough left over for the other 99%. And some of the commentators have said it's not 1%, it's 0.1% who really have that. But it occurred to me that the main way that those with all the money express their undue influence is with corporate contributions. And it's a long story that I'm not an expert at, but in a nutshell, the federal government and states were trying to limit corporate contributions, and then the Citizens United case came, and said that corporations are people for the purposes of the First Amendment, and they can spend whatever they want on an independent campaign. You can still limit their contributions to a candidate, but not on their own campaign. So as we saw during the recent presidential race, they're basically running the ads for the campaign. And so the question becomes how you get that money out. Now, Citizens United, I'm a lawyer. The Supreme Court, you can second guess it all you want. They're still the final judge. I think eventually the case will be overturned. Just like Brown versus Board of Education overturned Plessy versus Ferguson of separate but equal, and other cases that the court has changed over the years. I've thought for a long time that the only way to get large contributions out of politics, because there's so many First Amendment considerations or limitations to what you can do with respect to money as speech, contributing to a cause or to somebody speaking. And I love the First Amendment. It should be all of our favorite amendment. But corporations shouldn't run the country. Big money shouldn't run the country. They should get a fair say, but not a disproportionate say. So what we need to change the game is a constitutional amendment to prohibit corporate contributions to first federal and then state campaigns. That's a game changer. And it overrides all the court decisions or whatever's in the Constitution now. It would specifically say, and there's petitions online, corporations shall be prohibited from contributing money to federal political campaigns, and individual contributions are limited to 100 or 200 or whatever limit you want to make. And as I was visiting with Occupy, and there's two ways to change the Constitution. Congress can propose a constitutional amendment. I don't think they're going to do it. I hate to say they're bought and paid for, but at least some of them are, and Republicans, they're all over the place. They're breeding like rabbits in Congress. And it may change this year, may not, but there's not enough votes there. And I like to think, I do think there's good people on both sides. I think there's more good people at the moment on the Democratic side. That's why I'm a Democrat. I don't think they're going to propose this anytime soon. The other way to change the Constitution is for 2/3 of the states to call for a constitutional convention to propose an amendment to the federal Constitution. And then whatever they decide goes back to the states for approval, and you eventually have to get, I think it's 2/3 of the states, maybe 3/4, to approve that. So we have Occupy movements in a majority of the states, at least 30, and they need an issue to coalesce around. They're all over the board. They're against stuff. There's not much stuff they're for. And it's like a miracle they haven't disappeared yet. But we feel strongly that they're on the right path. They just don't know what to do with it. So my idea would be to organize, and as the Lieutenant Governor I can start it here in Missouri, a petition drive statewide and nationwide to call for a constitutional convention to propose an amendment to the federal Constitution prohibiting corporate contributions. And there's a lot of ways to do that using the Occupy movements in the different states. If it's a good idea, it'll spread. So I'm going to start it here in Missouri. I'll work with Occupy and other groups, and it should catch on. There's online petitions, but you need feet on the ground. And that'd be a big deal. I'd do that. I could get a second term. So that's going to be a real priority for me. Animals are systematically tortured for as long as they can keep them alive to make the big agricons, big, huge, well-financed companies, corporations, as opposed to small or medium-sized family farms, more money. And it's just wrong. And one of the things animal welfare societies say that I've picked up is if you knew them, you wouldn't hurt them. And I really believe that if no citizen among us, including conservative Republicans who protect these agricons because of their contributions, could walk through a farm, that's why they want to keep cameras out. If you saw this happening, you would never buy that again if you had an affordable choice. And the way they get away with it is farm animals are exempt from animal cruelty statutes. What you can't do to a dog, you can do to any animal on your farm. what you can't do to your cat, what you can't do to your bird, what you can't do to any animal that's a pet, you can do as long as you want on a farm, because they're exempt from the animal cruelty statutes. So we need to prohibit exempting farm animals from animal cruelty statutes, which means we're going to have to learn how to raise our food in a way that doesn't hurt small and medium family farms and that doesn't make food prohibitively expensive to us. I think that issue on a referendum, if you phase it in and you tell people that their food is still going to be affordable and you show them what you're going from to what you're going to, we'll vote for it. That's why we have democracy, and that's a high priority for me and always will be. In public service, I was a VISTA volunteer doing community organizing between college and law school. Then I started working in campaigns. I was an assistant law director for Dennis Kucinich when he was mayor of Cleveland. My first election I ran for was school board in Cleveland in '81. So by my fast math in my head, that's 31 years I've been chasing this. So I'm ready. So my first day on the job, in addition to hiring staff, is to start familiarizing myself with the details of the issues, the questions, and the issues I've promised people I would address. So educating yourself would be the first step. And we're going to have a 3-month plan and a 6-month plan. What are we going to do on each of our issues at 3 months? And at 6 months, I should know exactly what I'm doing. By 3 months, I should have probably a pretty good idea. And we'll have to prioritize. I think going around the legislature and introducing myself to everybody and finding out what's important to them. It's about, teaching is about relationships, and governing should be too. And if I'm half as good as I hope to be, I should be able to inspire legislators to be the best they can be, as well as they will inspire me. So I can't do it all myself. Leaders have ideas, but others will do the hard work. So I'll start building relationships. That's what I'm going to do.